Snowed Up by Edwin Waugh, narrated by Malc Cowle. Chapter 5. The Sexton's Story Continued. My lodging is on the cold ground, and oh, very hard is my fare. Old English Song. The midnight chimes had just begun their usual 15 minutes melody, when the landlady of the inn opposite the gate of the churchyard came slowly down the lobby and closed the front door of the house. She went into the empty tap room, and sighed as she looked round at the floor and at the sloppy tables. Then, putting out the light, she set her hands upon her hips and yawned, as she went with weary step towards the kitchen, where the landlord and 3 old cronies had crept round the fire after all the rest had gone. Their ale pots stood, some on the hob and some on the round table at the landlord's elbow. They were talking together in a low tone and staring at the fire. They had evidently set in for a quiet drink at the heel of the day's bustle. "James," said she, addressing her husband, "James, I think I'll be off to bed, for I'm clan done up, and tomorrow's the washing day. It's like as if one's work were never ended. What with one thing and what with another, I'm wearied out of me life. Now don't thee go and sit up long, dost a year? For Lord's sake, do let's get a bit of rest while there's a chance. And mind the puts leaks out, and mak doors fast, dost year? Now, folk, I pray you, don't go and cower there till daylight. It's getting on for 1 o'clock. I'm sure your wives'll be waiting upon you. James, thou not keep 'em, wilt ta?" "No, I'll not, lass," said the landlord. "Go thy ways to bed, for tha's had a hard day. Go thy ways to bed. I'll do wi' a bit of rest. We're no one bound to sit here so long, thou may depend. Off with thou, I'll see all reet." "Well, mind the doors," said she. Then addressing the other 3, who were old customers of the house, she said, "Good night to you. Dinna go and keep him now. I mun get my head laid down, or else I'll be fit for naught in morning." "Good night, Betty," replied they. "We'll be off in a shift." "Good night," said she again, and then closing the kitchen door behind her, she gave another quiet sigh and slowly climbed the stairs. By this time the chimes of St. Chad's had rung out their cheery salutation to the morn, and all around was silent, except the wind moaning among the trees around the old vicarage and whirling withered leaves about on the gravestones in the churchyard, and the town in the valley was now so still that the clear strong voice of our Lord the watchman, whose beat was in the neighbourhood of the cross, rang among the deserted streets with a solitary sound, as he announced to the wide world, in kind of solemn melody, that it was past 12 o'clock and a cloudy morning. The landlord of the inn gave a quiet look at the kitchen door when his wife had closed it, and he listened to her footsteps as she retired up the stairs. As soon as he heard her close the chamber door aloft, he drew his chair nearer to the fire. "Now, lads," said he, rubbing on his hands, "we'll just have another tot apiece, and then, and faith our lass is gone, for Fairy always knocks her up, and who's knowing so well of herself. Come, sup up, and I'll fill 'em again. You mun have this with me, for sake of old times." Each drank up, and then the landlord noiselessly opened the door, and went and filled the pots again at the bar. Returning in the same stealthy manner, he said as he set them down quietly, "Now, lads, we must be as whist as mice. I won't whack an earth at wide world. I like to have a bit of a quiet do when all's o'er." The door was closed. The old cronies drew their chairs together in genial chat around the fire, and the fun gradually rose, till at last all discretionary restraint was fast fading from their thoughts, and even the landlord began to be forgetful of his wife and of the rest of the sleeping household. "Come, lads," said he, "let's have a bit of a song. Billy, strike up Gossip Joe." "No," replied Billy, "let's sing Come Sweet Lass. Joe, thou can put in a bit of a second." "Brast off then," replied the landlord. Just then somebody lifted the latch outside, and addressing the landlord through the lock-hole, he said, "Now then, Jem, dost ye hear? Open door." "Hush," said the landlord, whispering to his cronies. "Put that light out." The light was instantly extinguished, and they sat like four statues, silently denouncing this disturber of their secret revel, and trembling lest the din should awaken the sleeping landlady. At last, wearied of his fruitless appeal through the lock-hole, the midnight wanderer went muttering away. They listened to his retreating footsteps till the sound died out in the distance, and then the landlord said, "He's off. Don't you know who it is?" "No, it's Old Wobble. I'm fain we didn't let him in. He'd weary a growing tree, he's such a maundering foo. Now then, Joe, come, get a gate of that song. Strike up, come, sweet lass, and sing low, bite mon, sing low, or else you'll have her downstairs." Billy struck up the quaint old song to the tune of Greenwich Fair. When he'd finished, and he'd sung it really well, "Bravo, Billy, our lad," cried the landlord, repeating the last lines, "and everyone is gay, but I when you're away." "Come, I'll give you a bit of a ditty myself," said the landlord, and he began, "My old wife Sue's a good old cretur, my old wife Sue's a good old soul." But the noise had already awakened the sleeping landlady. She listened a minute. "Goodness days," said she, "are they sitting yon yet?" She got out of bed and went to the head of the stairs. "Jem," cried she, "in name of fortune, how long ever are you bound to sit drinking there? Jem, just a year. Did ever anybody hear such as din as they're macking at this time at night? Jem, just a year." But by this time the flowing revel had so far advanced that the three cronies were not easily aroused. At last the landlady, getting clean out of all patience, took a candlestick and began to knock upon the banister, and the unusual noise soon attracted their attention. "Hush, lads," said the landlord, setting his pot down. "Hush, what's that?" And there was an instant lull in the kitchen. "Jem," cried the landlady again, "how long ever are you bound to sit yowling there?" "Bite mon," said landlord, "it's our Betty. How'd you din? I'll go." Then opening the kitchen door, he went to the foot of the stairs, and looking up in the dark, he said, "Now then, old lass." "Now then, old lass," replied she from the head of the stairs. "Aye, they may rail say, now then, old lass, you are macking a bonny din in Thole. I wonder how ever they can for shame allow such goings on when folk are in bed and me as ill as I am. Let those chaps get away's whome. It would seem 'em better nor than sitting slotching here. We can send for 'em again when they wanted. They are made hullable enough here for one night. I'll not ask such work. Turn 'em out and lock door on 'em. They have been off afore now, but for thee. It's time for all gradely folk to be in their own houses, those that has any. Turn 'em out, and come thy ways to bed this minute. Dost hear?" "I hear." "Well, heed then." "It's no use, lads," said the landlord as he entered the kitchen again. "There'll be no comfort in Thole now. You may as well go soon as that. Come, sup up, and I'll see you to door. We'll have it out another day." He went with them to the door, and bidding them good night in an undertone, he closed the door and left them on the right side for running, as the saying goes. It was a dark and cloudy night, and the wind moaned wildly in the vicarage trees. "Well, lads," said the cobbler, "I guess we'd better go home. There's no else for it now, so I'll make best of my gate to Pinfold. Billy, thou'rt bound up to School Lane. If I were thee, Joe, I'd tack across churchyard and down steps. It'll be a short cut, if I can manage to gate, for thou'rt nobbut a mac o' Wambley to-night. But they mun do as weel as they can. By mass, it is some dark. Well, tak care of yourselves. Good night. I'm off." Joe was a hearty little fellow, but he was quite done up that night, and the moment he was left to himself in the dark, he seemed to get worse, and he did not half like the thought of crossing the churchyard alone at that hour. But the other way was so much farther, and by this time he had such poor use of his legs that after a little hesitation he began to lounge across the road towards the entrance gate. He went in, and the gate closed behind him with a sound that made him shudder. He pulled his hat over his brows, and as he maundered about in the dark, he missed the path and ran against a tombstone and dropped down. As soon as he managed to gather himself up again, he struck out once more in a wrong direction, and before he'd gone many yards he tripped against a plank, and down he went, headlong, into a new-made grave. As soon as Joe had a little recovered from the stunning surprise occasioned by his fall, he got slowly upon his feet and began to wipe the damp soil from his face. "By th' mum, that's a socker," said he, as he combed the sand out of his hair with his fingers. "Where am I getting to now?" continued he as he groped around in the dark. "By mass, I'm in a grave." "Aye, it's a grave and naught else," said he, groping about again. "By Guy, I've shapped that nicely. I call this coming down it thwill, and I believe I put my shoulder out too. There's always a summat. I've played a deal of marlets in my time of one macker and another, but I've come to me grave at last. How the devil mun I get out again? That's next job. I weren't many minutes with getting into this hole, but it'll take me some time to get out again, I doubt. My mother used to say that I should get taken down afore a deed, and by mass it's come true all of a sudden. And I didn't leap to my feet neither, by feeling me head. By mon, it has proused me inside up to some gauge. Where's me hat?" continued he, feeling about the bottom of the grave. "Oh, it's here, and a bonny seat it'll be when it comes to leap. Folks shouldn't wear the Sunday clothes when they're coming into such holes as these. I never thought, when I donned myself this morning, that I were bound to my own burying. If ever I get o'er this, as I summat to tell 'em. First I'm knocked o'er by a tombstone, and then I'm rolled into a grave, all in about 2 minutes. Talk about warlocks. Cock feetings of food to this." Just then the clock struck 1. "Aye," said he, 1 o'clock. That dar come by itself. I wish I'd gone home tint daylight. I've a good mean to reave year off me head, for a foo." It began to rain. "Now then," said he, as he turned up the collar of his coat, "now then, it's raining, but mon, it'll be a smart go if I get drowned in th' hole. I'm just thinking of falling asleep a bit, for it's not so nice when it rains in bed. A grave," continued he, groping at the side again. "A grave. A smart shop for wet folk to fall asleep in. I wish there were a bell in th' hole. I'd ring soon and bowdly too. It's no use. Life's such a queer bit of travel, a warlock with sun and with shade. And then, on a bowster of gravel, they layin' us in bed with a spade. They didn't lay me in bed with a spade neither. I'd no bother with getting down here. I come on myself with a solsh. Great-looking chamber this is. There's naught but dead folk in this shop. If one could get a wink or two asleep, it'd be rather awkward being whackened by a rook of chaps bout flesh on the bones. By mon, makes me cringe to think on it. They're cowed folk to lie with ghosts are. It is some dark in this hole, and it's cowed too. If there were a barrelful of red cinders in Nuke, it'd be better than naught. I wonder if I could get out. Let's try." He tried to climb the side of the grave, but the soil slipped from his grasp, and he gave up the attempt. "Shall I ever get out of this hole alive, I wonder? By mon, it is some cowed. Our folk are all snug in bed long sin, and here I am in me grave, or somebody else's. It is some cowed. If I'd summat to cover me with, I'd lie me down a bit, and our brewhouse door 'ud be better than naught. There'd be no fleas in that blanket as how. Here, let's try again." Once more he attempted to get up the side of the grave, but slipped back. "It's no use," said he, "it's no use. There's no getting up out a ladder. I may as well try to make myself comfortable. I'll pull some of this sand down to sit on." He then began to scrape down the sand from the side of the grave till at last he came to something hard. "Hullo," said he, "what's that?" He felt at it again. "By mon," said he, "it's a coffin." A cold shiver ran through him, and he crept off to the other end of the grave. "By mass," said he, as he looked back at the place from which he'd scraped the soil, "I'll let that alone. I's be whackning summat or another. Somebody may pop their head out of that box any minute. I wish I were out of this hole," continued he, giving a hopeless glance up at the night sky. Then, pulling his hat over his eyes and buttoning his coat up to the chin, he reared himself up in the corner and began to mutter in a low tone, "Well, here I am, and here I'm unstopped, seemingly. It's just way at world, buried today and forgetting tomorrow. I wonder if anybody'll look after me. If ever I get o'er this, I'll let somebody hear my tongue. Our children snug in bed long sin. I wish I were wi' 'em. I dar say how Sally sit by th' fire just this minute, calling me wine or a pow-cat for stopping out so long. Out, nay, I'm in, aboon a bit. If thou lass knew how sudden I've come to me grave, just in prime o' life too. Who'd cry her een up, happen. I wonder if thou Greta will get wed again, if one were today. I wish I could send a word where I am. It's no use." Then, sighing as he looked round at the steep sides of the grave, he continued, "Well, it doesn't matter. I may as well try to make myself comfortable. I'll have a bit more of this sawn down, if I can find a soft spot, for by morn I'll have no more to do with that coffin. Doesn't do to disturb folk when they're asleep. I shouldn't like it myself. Hush, what's that? I thought I heard summat. Nay, it's na but wind. I am some starve. Neither blankets nor naught. A bonny hole this is. Hush." It was a company of late stragglers coming up Church Lane singing, "Bright chanticleer proclaims the dawn, and spangles deck the thorn. The low wingers now quit the lawn, the light springs from the corn. Dogs, huntsmen, all the window throng, fleet Towler leads the cry. Arise the burden of my song, this day a stag must die. With hey-o chevy, out forward, tantivy, out forward away. Tantivy, huzzah, out forward, tantivy. Arise the burden of my song, this day a stag must die." "Aye, boy, mon," said Joe. "You may wheel tantivy, you're all right drunk and bousty heads. It would seem you better if you were thinking about another world instead of tantivying up and down the street disturbing folk in their graves. You haven't had to come to it yet, as much din as you macken. Hush, they're at it again. Good morning, Gossip Joe. Where are you going so early? Good morning, Gossip Joe. Where are you going so early in the morning, Gossip Joe?" I wish I were among those lads," said Joe. "Husht. My pocket I have lost, 'twas lined with sugar candy." "By mon," said Joe, "I know one of those chaps. Hush. My pocket I have lost, 'twas lined with sugar candy." It is, by mon, it's old Yowl at Thuntsman and Northouse. Old lad, I wish I were following thee across Ruley Moor in full cry with a beefy boy in me pocket. Owd, continued he, I'll mak those lads year at old Salsey. I'll just give 'em a stave at th'oud mat. They come in this road, on here goes. Hey, Blossom, yea-o, hey, Bouty, me lass, hey, bounce a little dog, by dogs, by, yo-o. There, said Joe, stopping to take breath. I think they'n hear that if they aren't both deave and gormless. Hush. He listened, and they stopped and listened too, with the air creeping upon their heads, as they stared towards the dark churchyard from whence the sound came, and for a minute or two all was still except the wind among the vicarage trees, and the dead leaves whirling about upon the whirling gravestones. "There," said Joe, "I've stopped there, diners how. By moon they frighten, and they may wheel. Who wouldn't be frightened to hear folk hunting in a grave at 2 o'clock in morning? I should myself, and by mass, if there's anybody buried about here that's been used to following dogs, they'll be getting up. There'll be a bonny hullabaloo if I set a lot of skeletons against hunting up and down churchyard in neat team. Hush, they come in." The midnight sailors were frightened by Joe's hunting cry, but they crept softly up, and now they were peeping over the wall into the dark churchyard, within 20 yards of Joe's doleful lodging. "The sound come from somewhere about here," said one in a fearful whisper. "Well, I thought so," replied the huntsman, "but what the de'il can it be, thinken ye? Hush, Rollo, say thou, what's yon?" "I see not." "Aye, but I did." "Let's give 'em another stave," said third. "Let's give 'em another stave, as who they are." "No," replied the huntsman in a low tone. No, let's be quiet, come away. There's a good lot of folk buried about here that knows me." "Husht, let's go home, I dinna like this. It's an ill sign when folk begins a cawing on you out of the graves in neat time. I'm off, as who else is." Joe had been hearkening to them all the while, and in the stillness of the night he could hear every word. "Aye," said he, "it is as I said, it's old Yowler. I wish I could get him to help me out. Here, I'll give him another stave. Hey, Yowler, old dog, help me out, I'm in a grave." "And by, they may stop there for me," said Yowler, and in an instant they all took to their heels. "There," said Joe, "I've made yon lot shake in the shoon for once, as how 'tis. They're off like redshanks, and they come no one back tonight neither. A rook o' leather-yeds, and they're off. I've sent last on 'em for tonight. Then I've a bonny tale to tell it morning, by Guy. I wish I were out of this hole. I'll be at our house in 2 minutes. Me porridge away upon thob just now, and our Sal's sitting bit fire knitting, as cramps as a whisket, ready to brast off as soon as door opens. Sal, our lass, thou little knows, or else thou be here in a sniff, wi' clothes proper, summat to help me out. God bless her old face. I should be some fain to see those 2 blue een of hers looking off top there, for I'm getting weary of this shop. They said it'd be shortest road home through churchyard, and it is too, when they gone home for good. But next time I go home when dark, I'll pike a road that there's no holes in. It's no use. I'll try to make myself a home till daylight. Sons and coffins. There's no house in this smithy. Smart quarters for a feyther of a family to put up at. Talk about keeping one's heart up. Some for me suppers, some for me beds, some for me blankets, and skeletons for company. They're quiet folk enough, but I'm no impartial to such like neighbours. Sand and coffins. I guess as has to get me breakfast of a coffin lid in morning. Well, come, I'll have summat to sit on, as how." He was beginning to scrape the sand down again to make into a seat for himself in the corner, but pausing thoughtfully and laying his hand upon the side of the grave, he said in a low tone, "I wonder who sleeps in this next chamber. Happen summat quality, the Lord knows. Folk get 'em mixed up so after they died, and they're agreeing better than they done when they were wick. Well, as who they are, I shouldn't like to disturb 'em, nors I'll let 'em alone if they let me alone. Besides, they may happen think that I'd no business here. By mon, I think so myself, but it's noan of my fault. I didn't think of cawing in at this shop, and if ever I get atop of this brew again, they'll not catch me here no more. till I'm brought in a box. Let's see. My Uncle Bill's buried none so fur off this spot. If the old lad knowed I were here, I believe he'd get up and help me out. Folk are ready enough to help one another into their graves, but there's no one so many to do t'other job, except those body snatchers, as they calling 'em. By mass, I wish one of those had come and have a snatch at me. I'd mak' th' old lad tap me body out of this hole, or else I'd tan his hide reet whale. Let's see, me Aunt Matty lies in yon fur nook. He'd be 85 when hoo died, 85, and here I am, under 40. Talk about th' ups and downs in a mon's life. This is a down if ever there were one. I should like next move to be t'other gate on, and I hope it'll come soon too. If my Uncle Bill knowed that I were here, th' old lad would turn in his coffin if he didn't get up. By mass, if he did get up, he'd skiff some of these folk in this yard, for he used to be able to manage when he started. I hope he's gone to heaven, th' old lad, but if he is, he'll be a rough angel, I doubt. There's a 2-3 folk lying about here that'll remember his shoon middling well. He used to make bits and notches upon the shins now and then, but I dare say he's quieter now than he used to be. There's lots of chaps buried about here that knows me. It looks queer that one mun be among our cronies, and nobody to give a body a bit of a lift. Let's see, continued he. This is the time when ghosts are upon lookout for squalls. If there's only on 'em stirring, they happen looking here, but they'll never think of looking for wick folk in a grave. If any on 'em happens to see me in this hole, they'll think I belong to the same lot as themselves. It's a queer thing about ghosts. I've heard 'em say that nobody ever comes back out of their graves, no but those that have summat on their minds. I've summat on my mind just now, and I'll let somebody know it too if ever I get out of this grave. If I'd been a gradely ghost, I could have been out of this hole in a snift, but I think that if ever I get laid down for good, as what I have on my mind, I'll try to lie still and keep it to myself. I see no good in 'em getting up out of their comfortable beds in neat team to maunder up and down in cowed, freaking folk out of their wits. It's a queer thing about ghosts coming back with their clothes on too, that caps me. Think of the ghost of an old singlet, or the ghost of an old linen sheet. I canna make it out. And then, when folk gets brunt to death, they say that they comin' back then sometimes. One would think that after a chap's been brunt to cinders and buried in a quart pot, he'd never come back no more, unless he come on a fire shovel. But they may do as they in a mind for me. I can neither make neither top nor tail of marlocks that belongs to t'other country. I want to get out of this hole, that's all. I am some hungry. I wish I'd fallen into a cook shop instead of this smithy. Well, it's no use, I'm done up. I mun have a bit of a nap as what comes. Hush, what's that? The old church clock struck 3. 1, 2, 3, said Joe. 3 o'clock. Come, that'll do. Be daylight some time, I guess. Then the chimes began the melody for the day again. Life let us cherish. Aye, by mass, said Joe. They may well see life let us cherish. It's that very thing that encourages these ghosts to get up out of their beds in neat team. But I'm noan dead yet, so here goes. And he began to sing, Life let us cherish. Howd, said he, howd, by mon, that's hardly reet mack of a song to sing in a grave. I'll drop it. I am some sleepy. It's time to fall to. Then putting his hat over his eyes and turning the collar of his coat up, he sat down in the corner upon the little pile of sand which he had scraped down from the side of the grave, and in a few minutes he was fast asleep. And he slept on in his cold corner for more than 2 hours, giving an uneasy shiver now and then, and muttering dreamily, "Sal, give her that pulling the clothes off." It was now the still of the night, still at least from human sound, for all the troubled world of man's life lay pillowed on the breast of sleep, that gentle breast on which the mortal wanderer nightly takes the rest that helps him on his journey from the cradle to the last long sleep of death. The book of worldly business was shut and clasped till the dawn of morning woke up matin service again, and the undertones of nature, which are lost in the roar of noon, had all the ear of midnight to themselves, and the dusky silence seemed to swarm with spiritual comments upon the fuming shows of the bygone day, and strange whispers came from the wandering night wind, whispers laden with the sighs of ages of parted sorrow, and every inanimate thing seemed to have found some small voice that took part in the weird conversation of that solemn hour. In the meantime, Joe slept on in his coal nook, surrounded by the bones of his forefathers. A little before 5 o'clock, while it was yet dark, the sounds of morning life began to stir. Cocks crew and dogs barked, and one after another, at lonely intervals, people straggled, half awake and shivering, across the dark churchyard on their way to work. Still Joe slept on, until at last a lad came across the churchyard singing aloud to the old Lancashire tune called The Dawning of the Day. "'Twas on a rosy morning June, when the farmers made the hay, down by yon posied woodland green, a milking maid did stray. And oh, but she was sweet and fair, the flower of all the vale. In her hand a wild white rose she bare, and on her head a pail." The song awakened Joe, and he began to stir in his coal nook. First he shivered, and then he yawned and rubbed his eyes, and then groping around in the dark, for the day was hardly yet tinged with the dawning light, he said, "Hello, where am I now? The New Bailey? Oh, I remember coming here last night. All of a sudden, I'm buried. Stop, what's yon?" The lad was now drawing near with his song. "Oh, but she was sweet and fair, the flower of all the vale. In her hand a white rose she bare, and on her head a pail." "Now for it," said Joe, rubbing his hands. "There's a bit of a chance at last." And setting his hands to the side of his mouth, he yelled out, "Hey, me lad, dost to hear?" The lad stood stock still for an instant, staring in the dust towards the place from when the voice came. He stood for an instant with the hair bristling upon his head, and then he took to his heels across the churchyard and down the steps which led to the centre of the town. Down the steps he went, taking the whole 120 at a dozen wild strides. In a little while the 6 o'clock bell rang, and people began to come thicker along the churchyard path. Joe tried them in succession as they went by, but one after another they fled at the sepulchral voice, as the lad had done before. In the meantime the daylight was strengthening, and soon after the old church clock had stricken 7, a milk cart came rattling down the street close by the churchyard. The cart stopped, and the man cried out, "Milk!" Joe hailed the sound with delight, for he knew it well. "Hello," said he, clapping his hands. "By mass, that's Johnny. Sing, oh, be joyful all ye lands, fol-de-de-lido. I'se get out of this hole now. Hey, Johnny, our lad, for Lord's sake, come and pull me out of this hole." "Who's yon?" said the milkman, and he came into the churchyard and looked round, and then, led by the sound, he came to the edge of the grave and looked in. "Eeh," cried Joe, gazing up at the milkman, "I never was so fain to see no mortal face in this world as I am to see that of thine, our lad. What time isn't it?" "Hullo," cried the milkman, "is that thee, Joe?" "It's naught else," said Joe. "Come, pull me out." "That getting down it world, our lad," replied the milkman. I am that, said Joe, but I intend to rise and shine again, as soon as ever I've a chance. Here, don't stand staring there. I want to get out. And what the deuce are you doing in that shop? Asked the milkman. I've been here all night. Thou hector as like, and what's that for? Is there somebody after thou? No, but there will be afore long if I don't get out of this hole, said Joe. I'm so cowed and stiff. There'll be some stock of rheumatic in my limbs after this doomment. Here, pull me out. Nay, replied the milkman, laughing. They may as well stop while they're there. They'll have to come back some day. Time enough for that, said Joe. I haven't finished my work up at top yet, but for Lord's sake don't make fun of me just now. I can't stand it. Pull me out. And then come down thyself if thou likes look on it. I've had a fairish do. Come, said the milkman as he knelt down by the grave. Let's see what we can do with thou. Give us hold of thy hand. But the grave was too deep and Joe was too short. And as the milkman rose from his knees, he said, It's no use, you're too deep for me, as Jackass said when it fell into t' draw-well. Here, cried Joe. Thou'rt noan bound to leave me in this hole, arter? No, cried Milkman. I'll have thee out as somehow, old lad. Then, taking off his jacket, he slung it down the side of the grave, and he said, Here, tack out of that. Joe clutched at the jacket in an instant, and the milkman began to haul, but Joe was a good weight. Howd, cried the milkman. The sleeve's coming off. Let go. Not by mon, cried Joe. I'll stick. It's last chance I've got. Then tack it all together, said the milkman, losing his hold and letting Joe fall into the grave again. By mass, I do get knocked about in this cow world, said Joe, as he rose to his feet again. Here, fling that jacket up, cried the milkman. Howd thy din, said Joe. I'm no one bound to run away with it. Thou doesn't call this pulling me out, duster, continued he, looking up at the milkman. I call it pulling my jacket in pieces, replied the milkman. Here, fling it up. That jacket cost me 12 shilling in good hard brass 3 weeks since. Thou doesn't want me to go home with t'one sleeve off, duster. Sleeve or no sleeve, they'll have to pull me out, old lad, or else they mun go home bout jacket. I can do with some clothes down in this hole. They'd say so too if they'd been here all night. Try thy breeches next, they're stronger stuff. I've a good mind to fling a milk can atop thy head, said Johnny. I wonder what thou'rt doing there. If thou'd been a greyly-sized chap, the matter getting out at that shop, all by thyself. Thou must say whatever there's a mind out, lad, replied Joe, but there's no jacket for thee till I get at top of this brew. Well, I'm going to do it then, said the milkman. I'm going to do it, for I'm noan bound to stand here in my shirt-sleeves shivering like a fool. Thou might please thy bonny sell how it's done, but done it mun be, or else I'll set up a clothes shop in this hole, cried Joe, folding the milkman's jacket up and tucking it under his arm. It'll have to be done, old lad, continued he, so thou might get to work as soon as thou's a mind. What art a standing there for? Off with thou to painter's yon and borrow a bit of a ladder. There's no shifting now. If Billy had been here, he'd have had me out of this coat long afore now, ladder or no ladder. The milkman took the end and off he ran. By mass, said Joe, clipping the jacket as he paced to and fro in the grave. I'll stick till I get bout of this note. In a few minutes the milkman returned with a short ladder. Joe lost no time in ascending the side of the grave, and when he got to the top he said to the milkman, Here, tap thy jacket, old lad. I'm some fain to get back to my own country again, continued he as he flapped his arms and gazed round the churchyard. They may want today, it's a mind for me. I'm in no hurry. It's no wonder at folk coming out of their graves in neat time. If I slept there regular, I should try to come out a bit now and then, if it were no but to warm myself. It has been some coward in that hole. Thou look starved, old lad, for sure, said the milkman as they walked out of the great gate of the churchyard together. It was now nearly 8 o'clock, and the landlord stood in the doorway of the inn, yawning and stretching his arms, and exchanging morning salutations with the passers-by, for by this time the whole neighbourhood was getting wide awake. But when he saw Joe, with his white face and shrunken form, sauntering across the street with his collar turned up and his hands in his pockets, he cried out, "Hallo! What's up at that here so soon this morning, Joe?" "Ston out," replied Joe. "Ston out and let's come in. I want to warm me." "Aye, well, go the ways into kitchen," said landlord, "for thou'rt in poor fetlow, lad. What's to do?" "I've had a bad night," replied Joe. "I think thou mun have," said the landlord, "for by mon, thou looks ill. Hast had summat didn't agree with thou?" "I have that," replied Joe. "What were it?" inquired the landlord. "It were my lodgings, our lad," cried Joe. "It were my lodgings." "Why, where hast ta been?" said the landlord. "I've been in a grave all night," replied Joe, jerking his thumb in the direction of the churchyard. "Why, whatever hast ta been doing there?" said the landlord. "I've been wanting to get out again all time," replied Joe, looking over his shoulder as he sat at the fire. "Here, come," said the landlord, drawing his chair up. "Let's hear all about it." "Give as I would have a supper summat warm, and then," replied Joe. And when Joe had got something comfortable to drink, he set to and told the whole story, to the great amusement of the landlord and his wife. "Come," said the landlady, laughing, "thou'll happen to get home in decent time another night. It would have served you right if you'd have every one fallen into thole together." "Well, that would have been a bit of company," replied Joe, "but I've had the old to myself, Betty, with some for a bed and Sky for a blanket." "Well, come and get a bit of breakfast into thee," said she, "for thou looks perished, and then eye thy ways home. I'm sure your folk'll be searching for thou." And when Joe had finished his breakfast, he was glad enough to creep along the back streets homewards and then to bed. And ever after that night, when he had to walk home in the dark, he took especial care, as he said, to pike a road that had no holes in it. "And now," said the sexton, taking up his glass, "my tale's ended." "And it's a toe-biter too," said the quarryman. "It's a strange tale for sure," replied the landlady, "but is it true, thinken you?" "Oh, let it alone, lass," cried the landlord. "The tale'll do." "Aye, it'll do as it stands," said the old pedlar. "Well, come," said the landlord, raising his glass. "Here's hoping that no one on us may ever come to our graves before natural time." "Amen," said the sexton. "I'll tell thou what, Dan," said the landlord, turning round to the sexton. "I think thou'rt aiming at getting clerk's place at yon old church of yours. Thou practises that amen of thine so much." "Well, I'll say amen for him, then," said the old pedlar, "for I'm sure there's no one as wants to be buried afore their time comes." "It'll be soon enough for me," said the quarryman. "There's mony a poor soul can hardly get laid by after they are dead," said the landlady. "I see no one of 'em laughed at top," continued the quarryman. "They all get 'em buried either for love or summat else. I don't think that'll trouble me much after my head gets lapped," said the landlord. "Come, whose turn is it now?" said the sexton. "Let's have another bit of a ditty or a tale or summat. Who's next?" "No," replied the landlord. "Let's tap breath and shake ourselves together a bit afore we start on again." "Mun I try another song?" said the quarryman, addressing the landlord. "No, no," cried the landlord. "No, by mon, we ain't had enough of thy singing. Let's be comfortable. If thou starts again, I'll be off to bed out at gate, for I canna ston it. Thou makes a din like a scouring stone." "Rest yourselves a bit," said the landlady. "That last has been a long do." "Agreed," replied the quarryman. "Bring me another," addressing the girl.